Okay, YouTube, as promised, here is my day 2, part 1 of the Casey Anthony trial. We're in recess for lunch. I believe they're coming back at about 1:10 or so, and but I wanted to go ahead and give you guys a quick update of day 2. So, day 2 started out, the defense is having a conniption, literally, over the prosecution not telling them who they're calling that day or whatever, so they can get their files. First of all, they know who they're calling. They have a list of their witnesses. It's not hard to keep them in the trunk of your car or some fashion. Go out there and pull them as you need them or whatever. Get a quick list of who they're planning on calling the day up. Because I highly doubt the defense is going to tell the prosecution who they're calling. But they're saying on it's in session that they don't really see that the prosecution probably won't have no issue of doing that. So that's how it started out. So we started about 10 minutes later. So then the state calls Cameron Capina, whatever his name. He lived at Sutton Place Apartments with Anthony Lazaro, also known as Tony. He was Tony Lazaro's roommate. And they called him as the first witness today. And he gave a little bit of background of, you know, a few things. First, one of the first things they asked him was his school schedule. He said usually it was 9 to 5 or 1 to 9. You know, it varied. And then they said, well, specifically June. And he said, well, it was 1 to 9. He said he met Casey about May 24th. And she seemed like a regular 22-year-old girl. He met Kaylee 3 or 4 times, would see her in the living room watching TV or in Tony's room with Casey. Casey told him she was in a event quarter at Universal Studios. Also, she made a statement to him that work is just stressing her out. And then he said that Casey started staying at the apartment in mid to late June of his recollection time frame. Casey said she was looking for an apartment with Amy, that she was going to be moving soon. Casey had told them that Kaylee was going to Universal with a nanny and to Cocoa Beach for a friend's son's birthday party. Casey would say Casey would tell them that she'd talk to Kaylee on the phone, and she would be excited when she would tell them this. He never saw her get ready for work. Never heard Casey on the phone with Kaylee. Never heard Casey on the phone with a nanny, which we all know is false. But the prosecution is actually sticking with the timeline. They're not giving Jose Baez satisfaction of laying into their hand about she drowned in the pool and George Anthony has something to do with it. And I believe that's why they would recall George Anthony and stuff, because I think they're just going in order of the timeline. He said that Casey would go outside to talk on the phone. One time she told him she was on the phone with her mother. He asked her, why do you go outside? She said it was her time to vent. Never said what the discussions were about on the phone with her mother. Never seen her drink, but one time she did come back home, which is Tony Lazaro's apartment, drunk. Never told him her daughter was missing or kidnapped, or even that she was looking for Kaylee. And then they got to the point where Lee came in, or when Lee came to get Casey's stuff, and he said he seemed calmed but worried. Then we did it across from the defense. Asked if he was at the Anthony. Now this is what blows my mind. Mr. Jose Baez Bozo, the clown here, asked him, "Were you at the Anthony home on June 16, 2008 when Kaylee drowned?" No, he wasn't. Of course he wasn't. And he keeps trying to stick this in, and this is ridiculous. And when they were talking about Lee, going back real quick, when they were talking about Lee being calm but worried, Casey looks really relaxed, like nothing's wrong. And, you know, she really does, in my opinion, look relaxed. Like, these witnesses that they've called so far this morning, it's like, they got no dirt on me. They got nothing. They can't hurt me. You know, kind of facade about her. That's just my opinion. But anyhow, so then the state calls Nathan Lanizwick, whatever. He lived at the Sutton Place Apartments at the end of May 2008 with Cameron and Tony Lazaro. He said he slept on the couch. His school schedule was 9 to 5. He first met Casey same time as Cameron. She seemed normal, 21, 22-year-old girl. And I believe he used the word party girl. He did not find out she had a daughter the first time he met her till a few days later. He met Kaylee 2 or 3 times. She told him she worked at Universal as an event coordinator. They asked if he'd ever seen a badge or any credentials, and he said no. She told him she would argue with her mother. Never heard her on the phone with Kaylee or the nanny as well. He said that Casey would cook and clean around the apartment. He would associate outside the apartment with Casey at Fusion on Friday night. I love you too, buddy. This is my son anyways, by the way. He's been at Fusion with Casey 2 or 3 times. Then they showed the picture of him and her at Fusion. He said she participated in a hot body contest. A hot body? Let me tell you something, girl. This is my definition of a hot body, okay? Especially a mother. Somebody who takes care of their child. Somebody who cares about their child. Who doesn't go out and party and act like a floozy when their daughter is supposedly missing. But anywho. And then the picture was taken in June of 2008. It was allowed in as evidence. He couldn't remember the exact date, but he knew it was June 2008. He said she always seemed like she was having a good time, meaning at Fusion. Never seemed distraught or angry. Never said Casey was looking. Casey never told him neither that she was looking for Kaylee, or that Kaylee was kidnapped, or she was missing. Then there came July 15th, 2008. He said there was a knock at the door, and Casey went ahead and answered it and stepped outside for a minute. He saw a blonde woman. Not right now, honey. That she steps outside with a blonde woman who he now knows is Cindy Anthony. He said that she came back in, and Casey and Cindy were arguing. She said, "I'll talk, but I'm not leaving." She went back outside and never came back in. Then he talks about how Lee came back between 9 p.m. and midnight. He said Lee was very nice, appeared worried, and gathered Casey's belongings. Then he said the police had come over before Lee came, and they gave the cell phone to them, which I believe is Casey's cell phone.
15 years old, have her father in her mouth, and then go to school.
Then he said they came back again about an hour or 2 after Lee had left, and they had searched the apartment. Then the defense crosses, asked if Kaylee looked healthy, all this stuff. Yes, malnourished, no. Casey was attentive. They brought that out. And then they asked, did Casey give any indication that Kaylee was dead? They said no. They asked where she would park, and he would say, so she didn't park like 50 yards away, where there was no other cars. He said no. Asked if he was present when Kaylee drowned in the pool on 6/16/08. He said no. And then there was a little mini recess there this morning, and she's just chatting away with Baya during the recess and smiling. Again, and it's funny how this chick can turn on this switch, because if it was me on trial, I would not be smiling at all, especially if I was innocent. State, they come back from recess, and they call Roy house, which he goes by Clint. He lived at Fountain Place from April to June 2008. Slept on the floor couch. First met Casey at a friend's party. Seemed like a nice party girl. Met Kaylee 4 or 5 times. Kaylee never spent the night. Casey said she worked at Universal, but he never saw an ID badge at all as well. I'm going to try to hurry up and get this all into 15 minutes of this video. Said Casey never talked about work. He would ask where Kaylee was, and she said with the nanny, and she never gave a name. He said her demeanor never changed from the time before Kaylee supposedly had disappeared to or died to after. He never used Casey's laptop. Again, Casey would leave and take phone calls to talk to her mom or nanny outside. He hung out at Fusion every Friday night with her. She was in the hot body contest, he said. Casey would give clothing tips to the shot girls at Fusion. And at this time, Casey seemed really happy. She said she was happy. He never saw Casey and Tony fight. Never seen Casey angry, sad, depressed. No difference from before Kaylee went missing. And she never told him as well that her daughter was missing or kidnapped, or that Casey was actively looking for Kaylee. The defense crosses. And then he said, well, were you keeping a close eye on Casey's computer? He said, no, I wasn't keeping a close eye on her computer. At this point, Casey looks really bored. Don't know about Casey ever, if she ever threw out the trash, because they said, well, you know, she cooked, she cleaned, whatever. Did she ever take out trash? He said, I just don't know if she ever did. Never saw Casey change from when before Kaylee died to after. And that's where that ended. And then the state witness comes in. Another state witness, Maria Kish. She is Clint's girlfriend. Started dating Clint in May 2008. Her traditional work hours are 9 to 5, maybe a little later. She met Casey Anthony in June 2008 at a party. Met Kaylee at Tony's apartment. Maria knocked at the door. The first time she met Kaylee, Maria knocked at the door and Kaylee answered the door. When she entered the apartment, she did not see Casey. Then Casey emerged from Tony's bedroom. She went, and then there was another instance where she went to sit on the balcony of the apartment with Kaylee. Clint came to get Maria to leave, and she felt uncomfortable leaving Kaylee on the balcony alone. In June, Maria was at Clint's apartment about 2-3 times a week. When Maria went over to the apartment, Casey would be there. Casey told her that she worked at Universal as an event planner, but she never saw an ID as well. Maria observed Casey and Tony get along very well. One time went to Fusion on 6/20/08 with Casey. She remembered the date because it was the only time that she and Casey had gone there together. Witnessed, she witnessed her being in the hot body contest that Casey participated in. Casey was wearing a blue dress. She identified that picture. She said she was in charge of the shot girls and heard Casey directing the shot girls. Casey did not appear angry. Talked to Casey next morning. Maria asked where Kaylee was. Casey said with the nanny. She also asked Casey how much she paid the nanny. Casey told her $400 a week. Maria had a discussion with Casey. I'm going to actually leave this at this because I'm almost at the end of this video. So I'll post this in my second part.